ask us
Hola, babies.
all about the program.
Hola, queridas.
Hola, bebitas.
Hola, moras.
A ver, vamos a poner el...
Hello, everybody. We are live in Facebook. Hello, Mota y La Coca. I love that name. And we're at in Vancouver. Here at Tech. This is some of our staff. Hello. Here's some staff. Hello, everybody.
Hola.
Okay. We have to stay here. Thank you, Kathleen, Maria Cecilia. Have a great conversation.
Thank you, Christian. Ciao, Mary. Ciao, Dani. Ciao, Ale.
Great.
Amazing. Welcome. So I hope, would it be, I would like to, my name is Maria Cecilia. I'm one of the co-curators, and I'm joined today by Kathleen. We're so excited to have you guys here in this little Q&A. It's a little bit sad that we cannot meet each other in person. It's such a weird time, but I am very excited to be able to see you guys, even if it's online. Yeah, I would love to check in with you, see how you guys are doing. What time is it for you? We're like all in different time zones as well.
Bueno, aquí es las 9:30.
Las 9:30, 9:30. So could you let us know which one of you is La Mota, which one of you is La Coca?
Bueno, hola, babies, cariñas, ¿cómo están? Hello, everybody out there, wherever you are connected now to this kind of, virtual reality that we are forced to live in. We are the Pacha Queer Collective from Ecuador. My name is Mota. I'm a transgender person so far, before I become an ovni or, UFO or whatever else, or amoeba at least. But in regular terms, in citizen terms, I prefer the feminine as, as a pronoun for myself. So I'm she, her.
Y babies, bueno, yo soy La Coca. Bueno, vamos a hacer como una
remix,
una translengua, más allá de Spanglish, porque a la final igual sentimos que a través del lenguaje es una forma de desdibujar la frontera imaginaria. Y todavía aún no habito esas lenguas imperialistas, así que nada, pues igual intentamos como reivindicar desde los sudaca y nada, súper extasiada, yo soy La Coca y besos a todas las monstras.
¿Estarías de acuerdo con que haga un poquito de traducción por aquí y por allá en la lengua
Sí,
imperialista?
fabuloso,
¿Estaría bien?
por favor. Sí,
okay.
Fabuloso.
So La Coca was saying, she was bringing up a very important point about language and about how language kind of tends to define us a little bit and how it kind of tends to restrict us and kind of impose some barriers to who we are. Especially in Latin America, in Spanish, that we have those gender pronouns for everything. And I think that's something that I really enjoyed, that I really appreciated from your documentary, the use of the very inclusive language, which is now becoming more, the use is becoming more widespread in Latin America, which is very exciting, I think.
Thank you, baby.
Thank you. And Cesar, would you like to introduce your film and say a few words?
Sure. Well, hello there. I'm Cesar Cienfuegos. I am a pro-activist also. I am so sympathizant with the movement LGBTB, and I'm the director of the movie Reminiscence. I believe everyone have to be included in everything that we have to do. We don't need restrictions to who you are and what we need to do. There is something important here, is the injustice that we are against. We're living so much injustice, but for some privilege, some people don't know the injustice that a lot of people are living. Okay, so in this case, Reminiscence who is why I'm here, is a first show of it, how people can get empowered themselves from the injustice. Injustice can be a bad thing, but also can show us our power to regrow and to show ourselves. So yeah, I'm this person. I'm here, and I'm so happy to be here. And thank you for the invitation, Vancouver Film Festival. And thank you to share the screen with Pacha Queer, and this is awesome because this is new for me too. So thank you. Yes.
So Maria Cecilia and myself, I go by she, her, Kathleen. I'm from Canada and the US. And Maria Cecilia and I have been doing this program, this Queer Picks program, for 3 years now together. We co-curate it. And it's been amazing. And this year, I don't know, Maria Cecilia, if you want to say a few words, and we can talk about like what we did like in terms of this program this year, because I think it's a very different program this year than in previous years.
For sure. So this year we wanted to give a bit of a spotlight to highlight all of the films that were talking about kind of oppression and about characters, everyday characters, heroes that are fighting back against the oppression from different standpoints. No, we had noticed, like last year when we were doing our program last year, we had seen that there were a few documentaries or short films, some of them coming from Brazil, that were talking about the impact or that Bolsonaro was going to have in LGBTQ rights in Brazil, right? And we could also see that in different parts of South America, like in Peru, it's still we're very behind in terms of equality, rights, equal rights for the LGBTQ community. I believe that Ecuador now has the same-sex marriage was legalized last year. It's my understanding. Yeah. So you guys are way ahead of us in Peru.
Well, if we think that marriage is a step forward,
that is, you know? that opens up the conversation for sure to a lot of other considerations. Yeah. So that's kind of what lies a little bit at the core of the program this year. So we have along with Monstras, we have a documentary on Marielle Franco, the assassination of Marielle Franco and what she stood up for, and kind of that hope that she was bringing, that a lot of people saw in her, and then how tragically it was cut short at a very early stage in her life and a very promising stage in her life. We have, we also are showing a film by Leandro Godinho that talks a lot about kind of like the impact of Bolsonaro taking charge and how that can jeopardize the life of LGBTQ people in Brazil. And we also have the film by Cesar that it really touched me quite personally as well, because I am also part Brazilian, part Peruvian. I was born in Sao Paulo as well, but I was raised in Peru, in Lima. And I remember kind of living through that era of internal armed conflict and how we're still kind of grieving that. No, it was a very hard period for our history, and now. So the fact that you included a line of story that touches on that and also touches on this current crisis that we're living in Latin America of heightened misogyny, heightened, violence against queer bodies, against female bodies or feminized bodies. No, so we wanted to give a space so where we could have these conversations, where we could express our fears, our hopes, and just also kind of talk a little bit about how politics can impact this, no? How politics, or how the rise of an authoritarian or a demagogue or a fascist government can impact our peace, our you know, our life in the end, you know. So I think that's what was in you know, in the core of the program, I feel.
If I may say something about reminiscence, for sure sometimes it's so difficult to be like this. Someone should see me and see a man talking about a history of a woman, and how do you know how a woman can live that life? So you can't say something about someone who is not you. You know, you can't say some injustice that someone is living and talk about them and like that without, you know. And in the process of the reminiscence of the while I was doing writing a reminiscence, I was really looking for real histories, right? So there is a collective known Ambulante Cinema, and the Mexican collective, which they found a lot of histories from around all Mexico. And they got there one history about a woman who had who was wife of a man. So this guy one day tried to hit her, and she said something like hit me now, motherfucker, something like that, with a big stick in the hand, and tried to get him. So that moment touched me, because I was reading someone who was talking about she did that because her mother did that, because her grandmother did that before, and she stopped it, you know. At the point she said, I don't want to be hit anymore. So in my case, I was not trying to tell my history of how people can get over the injustice, but also can listen voices. There is a lot of people out there. There are a lot of people out there talking, saying something, and in this case, reminiscence is a process of listening what people said before, and now we can listen that and say, okay, there's something here that we may see or talk about it. And yeah, just sharing a few of you are talking, Maria Cecilia, is like, okay, sometimes we need to understand where come from the history, the storyline. And in this case, sometimes is from history from sisters that we got everywhere here, and there is a lot of injustice everywhere. And we would like maybe to say all the histories, show off, but we just to be patient and sometimes wait, start with one, ask to people, please listen this, then wait for a second one. So big steps. I think that in this case this film is a step, and for another films that we may share every time we can, to say no to the injustice, right?
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Cesar.
Yeah, thank you. And I wanted to ask a little bit about, like, with Patria Queer, like, so in terms of, if you could tell us a little bit about your collective, I think that would be, I mean, many people will have seen the film, but I think that you could, you know, to talk a little bit more about it. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. ¿Tú quieres que contamos un poco del colectivo y de cuál es la historia, digamos, para que la gente sepa? Okay, so we are, you know, since we are also, I'm like gossiping here a little bit. So if you you know, like watch or hear something, it's because I'm trying to, you know, we're trying to like get to understand everything. So sometimes we also are missed on translation, but it's fine. So
Porque a la final es un festival de cine latinoamericano, bebés.
yeah, exactly.
Exacto.
Yeah, and Maria Cecilia can translate anything as well. Like we can.
Si quieren, díganlo en español y yo lo voy traduciendo. Me lo dicen en pedazos y lo puedo ir traduciendo.
Well, pues,
Yeah. Okay, so well, I can introduce then the project, and then we can like talk furthermore about the film. So I think that first we are based in Ecuador from 2013. We started this project that was actually and I think on a way of escaping, or I don't know, escaping, but to finding a cavern, to finding a cave where we could be ourselves and where we could like share with other monsters, or, you know, monstras as we call it in Spanish. And I think it was like on the first, I mean, on the first basis, it was like inspired more of queer culture, you know, from overseas, like from whatever was coming in, and also what we have experienced outside of the country, outside of Ecuador, like, you know, I don't know, in the US, or I mean the American queer or the European queer or some other queers that was like, you know, quite the first voices, or, you know, as usual, the mainstream voices to talk about topics. And I think in that field, we started with that basis. We started being queers. We started, you know, like relating to this queer sense of being. And then we tried to find out the space where we could gather and get together with other queer people. And at the first time, we just got involved with, you know, with all like drag queens of the city and other people who was doing performance arts. And then we just started. And suddenly the project becomes itself, like it just, you know, turned into life. We are now just like, you know, part of it. We feel like, you know, at the beginning we were like kind of, you know, pursuing or finding the space and everything by ourselves, but now it's just like the project itself has come alive because it's so, you know, fulfilled of people. It's so fulfilled of hearts of people and of emotions and feelings that I think this all energy that actually carry us as well. You know, we're trying to, you know, give some sense to everything, but on another hand, it's like the universe of monsters or wherever we come from has also, you know, taken the path has shown us, you know, the path where we can walk through. And you know, suddenly it became based in, of course, Ecuador, in Latin America. It became a project that, you know, that walked further than the gender topics. And we you know, we get together and we encounter with other kind of queering, you know, how can we queer the economics, how we queer, you know, how can we get you know, a bus ticket to get safe, to get home safe, how can we, you know, how we struggle to get a daily food, and you know, somewhere to live. All these things that many of us have in common make the collective and, you know, all this project even stronger and bigger than we thought, just based on gender breaking stereotypes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a
Yeah, no, that was exactly like about like what it's about, right? Like for me, it's really interesting because you know, it's about sexuality and gender and being queer and being political, and it's all wrapped up. And then you're out on the streets and you're performing and you're engaging with public, like the public, and yeah, no, it's like so amazing around sort of the group that's coming together. And I found it so interesting because you know, you talk a lot about feminism and what feminism is and within, and it sounds like that you have really been working very much like with each other and maybe you could speak to that, like how you've been working with each other in the group to really discuss around misogyny and feminism, and because that comes out in the film.
Yeah. Actually, also because Coca was saying, also we don't no nos nombramos desde el feminismo tampoco. Either ways, of course, we walk.
Quizás como
empezó
siendo como ideologías que acompañaron el proceso de la Pachacuir.
Mm-hmm. So it started being like ideologies that kind of grew with or got together with the process of building Pachacuir, but I don't think it. No creo que no se quedó en ideologías, ¿no? Porque ya ustedes han desconstruido muchas cosas y se cuestionan muchas cosas del día a día también, ¿no?
Y nosotros decimos que el proyecto de la Pachacuir es una extensión de nuestras cuerpas, es una extensión más, entonces nosotras siendo cuerpas que estamos cambiando, mutando todo el tiempo, entonces obviamente el proceso de la Pachacuir también ha mutado y también ha evolucionado a otra posibilidad. Transdisciplinaria, contracultural, transfeminista. Le apostamos más al transfeminismo que al mismo feminismo, porque el feminismo sigue alimentando una construcción binaria, biologicista y fundamentalista, donde las cuerpas no normativas o no heterosis no somos legítimas en algunas corrientes de feminismos también, ¿no?
I'm going to try to capture all of that.
Yeah, sorry. Maria Cecilia, you can.
But what I think it could be, I think the essence of it was like Pachacuir is an extension of their bodies as well, right? So their bodies are they change, they transmutate. So the Pachacuir does not have a fixed identity or a fixed purpose. It will continue to evolve, continue to change. And they themselves think that they're more aligned with trans feminism rather than feminism, like pure feminist, because feminism will still be very biologic, like guided by biologic sex or gender, right? So it's still very binary. It's still very kind of heteronormative in a way as well. So they are more aligned with trans. And I think that it makes a lot of sense because we as living beings, we keep evolving, we keep changing, responding to different circumstances, just responding to our surroundings and how also kind of responding, I guess. And this Coca didn't go as far as saying this, but so let me know if I am going, you know.
You're good. You got it. It's the same thing, because I think it happens to all of us. It happens, this is the interesting of having this kind of chats or, crossing boundaries now that we are forced to live in this virtuality, where we can actually, really get together and get to understand that the frontier, that the borders, the flags are just a myth, I mean, on certain, on a certain ideological and political way, are just, imaginaries, right? That are built up to keep us separated when we are living kind of the same struggling everywhere in the world. Where you are there or here in Ecuador, the feminism path has struggled, has been all these, biological, as you said, and sometimes also that us has remained also in the academics sometimes, which is also, something that we have to be very aware of, because then when we talk about, as justice and access to, freedom and all that, and equality, how can we talk equality when only, part of the population who is mostly people who has gone to the college or the university or has this access to this kind of topics?
Sí, eso es bastante cierto. Perdona que voy a hablar en español para ser un poco más fluido. Lo que dice es cierto, hay que estar cuestionándonos todo el tiempo, ¿no? O sea, si eso es justicia, cuestionar qué justicia es esta, ¿no? Si esto es ley, ¿qué ley es esta? Si es estudio, ¿qué privilegio es este, ¿no? Entonces, a partir de ahí preguntarnos y qué estamos diciendo y qué estamos haciendo, ¿no? Porque a veces se nos pasa mucho que reconstruimos para hablar de los demás y la verdad es hacer el mundo que nos rodea mejor y buscar que con las personas que están a nuestro lado también, que así lo sea. Entonces, es frente a ese desafío de compartir una sensibilidad no solo de las cosas buenas, sino que también hay cosas fatalísticas, ¿no? Que nos rodean y abrazarnos y decir, todo va a estar bien, acá estamos en este camino, ¿no? Y, o sea, lo siento así también, ¿no? Lo siento así como lo dicen y es esto es, si no nos cuestionamos, no avanzamos, ¿no? Si nos quedamos con las mismas, no hay nada, ni feminismo, ni cualquier otro movimiento que se estanque en decir así son las cosas, porque ya sabemos lo que pasa cuando dicen así son las cosas, ¿no? Parece que no va tan bien, ¿no? Todos se quedan en casa, nadie sale, el terrorismo está acechando, entonces la idea, el Estado autoritario, no de un Estado, sino del ser, es como de no preguntarse, de no consultarse y decir qué más hay, ¿no? Entonces, sí, eso de cuestionarse, creo valioso, ¿no? De lo que mencionas.
Sí, ahora Cecilia le va a tocar esto súper difícil.
But I think you're so I'm instead of translating everything, I think I'm gonna just kind of draw a few ideas so we can kind of keep the conversation going. There were a few very important points I think that Mota and Cesar brought up. This idea of academia, this idea of how we construct knowledge, of how we you guys mentioned this, Pachacuir, you mentioned this in the documentary when you say you say something like that it's not about having these discussions between four walls, no, but taking them to the streets, because and I think the same thing happens with academia. Like when resistance to injustice happens, it usually happens in the streets. It usually happens from outside the center, from the margins, no? And it is only when the margins start pushing against the center, against the powers that be, no? Whether it's church, whether it's institution, whatever, that's when academia starts taking notice. That's when academia starts studying these things. That's when it starts kind of gaining some sort of cachet, some sort of status, no? And then if it gains too much status, then it can become the norm again, no? It can become kind of institutionalized. And then a new kind of fight comes in. So that's what you were saying, Cesar, about having, like us having to question everything at all times, no? Like what does queer mean in this context right now, no? Because it might not be the same thing that it meant 5 years ago. Or and also thinking of us and also thinking about our privileges, no? Because I think that also changes a little bit with how society changes, no? I remember Pachacuir, you were saying in the documentary, making reference that you first had to acknowledge or to think about your privileges as men, as inhabiting a male body in society, to start kind of deconstructing that, not to start kind of questioning also if you, like, what was your privilege, and also start listening to the femininity, the femme forces in your being as well, no? So I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about that. De pronto si pueden hablar un poquito de ese cuestionamiento de privilegio, de ese cuestionamiento de identidad o de cuerpo, ¿no? Del cuerpo en el ambiente, en el espacio, ¿no?
Yeah, I think basically it's more about first I think that most of us are forced to grow on a certain way, right? I mean, talking about gender stereotypes, either in the binary oppressor system that we live in, it is male and female, men and women, and so I think that when we got born, we
o sea, como asociándole la imagen del heteropatriarcado al hombre, creo que es también. ¿no?
Ujú.
Eso.
¿Cómo?
Eso como de, o sea, como, porque yo pienso que a la final igual como hablar desde un privilegio de hombre, igual me genera un poco de ruido, porque siento que los hombres trans no siento que vivan ningún privilegio de hombre, ¿no? Siendo un hombre trans, por ejemplo.
Sí.
Entonces yo creo que cuando hablamos de esto es como intentando hacer una analogía al hombre como imagen que se le da al patriarcado como hombre, ¿no? O sea, creo,
Yeah.
siento.
Yeah. And also how we can be, like also cómplices, right?
Mhm.
What is the word for that?
We're compliant. We're
Yeah, that's it, right. We're accomplice. Yeah,
accomplice.
yeah, it's
So
the
it's
same,
almost,
it's the same word
so
in
we
English.
we are all on the
Yeah.
same way cómplices, right? With this patriarchy, with the capitalism,
Yeah.
since very little, because we know, right? We grow and we see that, the women has to be in the kitchen, has to do these things, has to be this way, and you can go out and play, you can have your friends or whatever, and you realize that this is not fair. We all realize this is not fair. So we don't really like need, either to go, furthermore to like the university to have a PhD. Like if we talk to, to our neighbor here, right, who like work in the streets and picking up, like cardboards to survive in the society, I think she knows and she understands what's fair and not in life. And la mayoría de nosotras lo sabemos, pero quedamos calladas. We decide to keep quiet. We decide to, not say a word, because at some point I think we are forced to as well, because we are forced to be, this is the violent system that is very, very tight, that we at the same time that we want to scream so hard, we need to be quiet and we need to be silent. The same way that we are now with these horrible masks that we are forced to use. We are struggling in the world like a previous months before, protesting and, burning stuff and, like really trying to scream out that we don't want this system anymore, that we do not support our presidents, we do not support this democracy, we do not support the way that our world is being built, because it's not ours anymore. So that's why I think we are forcing and we're struggling also now with this next step, that when we want to take this mask off, not only the mask against the COVID, but against everything, against the social rules, against the sexual oppression, against, whatever you want to break through.
Absolutely. Yeah. And actually that brings me to the question, like in the time of COVID, like what is happening for you for you as well, Cesar, but what's happening for you as sort of as performers and activists? Like what is that reality for you?
Claro, la pregunta de Kathleen va como entonces en este tiempo de COVID que tenemos que estar aislados, que ya no tenemos la calle como espacio público realmente, ¿no? Queríamos saber cómo esto puede haberlos afectado, o si no los ha afectado, tal vez no ha tenido ningún impacto en el trabajo de ustedes, pero como activistas, como performance, ¿cómo están lidiando con esto?
César, tal vez.
Vale, les doy tiempo para procesar la idea. Tal vez por mi caso, yo tengo familiares, yo ahorita, como llegué a Brasil, estoy en Brasil y llegando a Brasil visité unos tíos, vino la pandemia y de la nada estoy en la casa de unos tíos que ya tienen, 60 años, ya tienen 70 años y toda una forma de pensar y una forma de hacer las cosas. Entonces, para mí ha sido muy chocante de haber venido a vivir solo, entrar a una rutina con familiares donde todavía de alguna manera hay formas de hacer las cosas de las cuales no estoy de acuerdo. Entonces, y no es que no estoy de acuerdo por capricho, sino porque de alguna manera siento que es como si sientes que la comunicación es vertical, siente que la relación es vertical, siente que que alguien manda sobre alguien, que las cosas se dan sin escucha. Y entonces, claro, en esta época de pandemia, por decir, creo que es como back to the basics, ¿no? Volver a encontrarte, no solo tú mismo, tú misma con tu soledad, sino también con estas personas que están alrededor viviendo su soledad y que puedan escucharse y entender qué cosas simples podemos hacer para entendernos, ¿no? En el sentido de respeto, en el sentido de comunicación, en el sentido de que, no sé, de cuidado del medio ambiente en el que estamos, si es un hogar, ¿no? Entonces, yo sé que puedo estar hablando, pero aún hay cosas que están dentro de un sistema, ¿no? Están dentro de una normativa de vivir en una casa, convivir familiares y cuando nos reconstruimos hasta los familiares pueden transformarse en nuevos otros familiares, ¿no? Pero en ese sentido las personas que ya tenía cerca y siendo yo mismo, ¿no? También como yo mismo, o yo mismo, y como en este mismo espacio, en este mismo lugar donde ya había estado antes y ahora ya no estoy más, ¿qué hago? Entonces, creo que mi respuesta siempre va a estar en preguntarnos, ¿no? Si está bien o está mal, y en función de si eso está bien, no caer en lo moralista, sino preguntarse si todos nos sentimos respetados o respetadas, si el ambiente es el mismo. Entonces, para mí ha sido más una lucha contra la otra edad, ¿no? Y creo que mi lucha siempre va con la otra edad, y mi propia otra edad. Si yo soy esa otra edad, ¿cómo me veo reflejado en mis acciones, ¿no? Y en ese camino de reconstrucción también cómo nos reconstruimos. Y ahorita en pandemia todo ha sido en casa, entonces no he salido mucho. Yo sé que Brasil es un lugar de mucha muvuca, como así decir, de mucha interacción. Pero nada, cuidándose en las medidas que puedo, pero la pandemia más me ha hecho estar en casa lidiando con este tema de la soledad que como quisiera, ¿no? Estar en la calle, salir, hacer otra película en grupo más que no sea por virtual. Entiendo que ahora el virtual es la manera que hemos encontrado, pero ¿será solo esa?
I think you have raised some very, very interesting points there, Cesar. I think that what's particularly interesting is that I know that you're sensing this, or you're speaking more about your personal experience, like your experience as yourself, finding yourself in a home that it's not your own home, it's a family home, but there's these hierarchies now that are at work in the relationship and the dynamics in the household, dealing with loneliness, or not loneliness necessarily, but dealing with being by yourself, no, which can get lonely, doesn't have to get lonely. And it also kind of confronts you with that other you, right? Like, I think that's kind of where you were hinting at, I think, like this otherness, this other you, and kind of dealing with, and this you didn't say necessarily, but I might be kind of like extrapolating some of my own thoughts here, like kind of, this kind of alone time kind of forces you to confront some demons as well, no? Because you don't have other distractions, you don't have that other space outside, you don't have that close contact with friends necessarily, no? I feel like and this is my personal experience, I feel like I miss hugging, for example. No? I miss that sense of community, of proximity. And that's something that we have been told we cannot do, that it's fatal. No? So I think that you're raising some very interesting points about kind of reassessing who we are in this context of being alone, like of being alone with ourselves, and how we want to manage our relationships and how close we can get with other people, ¿no?
Sí, puede parecer fácil a veces, ¿no? De estar bien con uno mismo o con uno misma, pero llega un momento que tus propios pensamientos te quieren sabotear por un lado o por otro, ¿no? Y te quieren decir cosas como que no lo hagas, sufre, muérete, di basta, o corre atrás, y vienen al mismo tiempo y ¿qué coges? ¿Cuál es tu opción? ¿Cuál es tu solución? y no sé, por en cuanto a la incertidumbre, ¿no? A partir del camino de la incertidumbre y qué cosas puedo caminar dentro de la misma incertidumbre, de esa vulnerabilidad que siento y que creo que a veces sentimos o casi todo el tiempo podemos estar sintiéndonos así, pero en general esto en sentido personal es lo que me ha ayudado también a comprender cosas que tal vez no sentía y no entendía de otras personas, ¿no? Que pasaban por situaciones de soledad intensa, aún estando alrededor de personas, ¿no? Que no nos entendían, ¿no? Y es trágico y da para historias, ¿no? Para más historias. Sí.
Absolutely. And I'm
Well,
wondering, sorry, perdón.
Sigue, sí, mi amor.
Ah, I was gonna ask you, Mota y Coca, cómo ha sido esto para ustedes, porque también una de las cosas que dijo César que me llamó, que como que se me quedó, es esto del estar solo y también estoy pensando en crear comunidad, ¿no? Porque eso es algo que yo vi mucho en el documental de ustedes, que me llamó mucho la atención y que también me hizo acordar mucho a Villa Travesti. O sea, estos espacios que se han ganado, ¿no? Para rebelarse contra los sistemas opresores, ¿no? Y una cosa es encontrar esos espacios en colectividad y otra cosa es encontrar esos espacios en casa, ¿no? O dentro de un cierto aislamiento, no sé.
Pues para nosotras con la situación del COVID sentimos que así es como muchas emociones que genera esta situación, ¿no? Porque por un lado está la incertidumbre, está la rabia, está también esta posibilidad de develar muchas cosas que pensábamos que no acontecían, que no sucedían, pero en especial es como reafirmar que el neoliberalismo no va a frenar nunca. Entonces, esta situación del COVID a nosotras, o al menos en el contexto ecuatoriano, andino, lo único que ha hecho es develar la deuda estatal que tienen contra la educación, la cultura, el arte, porque la Pachacuir también es un proyecto contracultural, pero a la final va por esto mismo, ¿no? Entonces, ver cómo la limpieza social que se genera desde el COVID, a la final no piensa en maricas, en travestis, en personas con VIH, en migrantes, en habitantes de calle. Entonces eso a nosotras nos genera rabia, nos genera impotencia y el proyecto de la Pacha se sostiene a través de la colectividad, a través de juntarnos con personas, de tomarnos el espacio público y ver que las élites o los dueños del poder simplemente nos taparon la boca porque no le interesaba o no quería ver que al menos Latinoamérica o muchos lugares en el mundo estaban levantando la voz, porque era un momento de mucha revuelta social en el mundo, en la munda. Latinoamérica estaba explotando y de repente nos taparon la boca con esta situación imaginaria del COVID que obviamente sucede, pero es una forma de decir, no levanten la voz.
Yeah, so maybe I could also like try to not translate, but maybe also like continue on, you know, the chat and just try to deliver some of the things that Coca just said. So first, talking about COVID, it's a lot of emotions around it, and she says that one of the biggest is to witness once again the failure of the governments, to witness once again how they are not you know, like well enough. I mean, they cannot afford anymore to hold the society, to hold our healthy, to hold our education, to hold, you know, our system of living. They cannot afford it anymore. And we witness that one more time in this crisis, in this, fatal situation, global situation. And this also reveals how they are not ready, and they don't think of us even in these situations, how they, as usual, and even more when there is, a pandemic or this, global chaos, that we, transgender people, lesbians, faggots, gays, all these other people who's not, heterosexuals and heteronormatives, are, outside of the pocket. And they didn't even think of public health for us, any kind of benefits, for us, for our population, for people who was working on the street as a sex workers, and they didn't have any income for all these months, while they were having these ads in public television saying, remain home, right? When here in Latin America, there is a big number of people living on the streets. How can we remain home? And this was very sad also for us. And I don't know if I just completed what you said. And I think there was something also related to the
Coincidencia.
About what we just said before about this, coincidence that just right now that the world was going forward into a change, it happens, this virus. And also I wanted to add that this, this situation of COVID for us in Ecuador, in Latin America, and for us as Pachacuir has been, brutal, has been another murder, because, we are often related to murders. Our sisters are assassinated, are disappear every day. So we are, more close to that. And that's how I think now we have learned how we can have something to repel these energies, to reinforce ourselves, not just thinking of society outside, because the society outside do not think of us when we need it. So how can we give it back when we are never in their mind? How can we be, solidarities? How can we, just because your life is on risk, now you have learned to be solidarity, but whenever this ends, people will go back to be the bad people they are. And I don't want to use the word bad because we don't think of bad or good, but I wanted to, to say that, like these criminal people they are. Criminal people in the terms of not acceptance, in the terms of not letting the other self be who they are and being freed by themselves. And also I wanted to add that, this been very suffering for us, and that's why we have learned to build up, this kind of power, and again we have to reinvent our ways, our strategies to to build up new weapons, because now since these new weapons also from the control world has been delivered, we also have to be creative. And also I think on that field, we have learned to change words also in this situation. So we don't call ourselves being, ¿cómo es la palabra? Confinados, right? Here in Latin America, we use this word confinados, which is like, the government forces you to stay in home or to not go to the streets.
Confín, no?
Yeah, I don't know, confín, yeah. But so we change the word. We say we're in a retreatment. We are, on somewhere else, because we don't have to keep using the words that they forces us to use. Here in Latin America, they were using this word, social distancing. Social distancing. Imagine the power of these words. We don't have to forget that we are witches, and the part of ourselves, in every part of our human beings, we come from all these spirits and all this energy from before. And if we forgot that, we are lost. So we have to know that the power of the word is very important, and we do not have to keep it, relating ourselves in that way. Because if we say we need to keep social distancing, it will become true. One day we will just be social distances, even worse than when we were before. So I think we have to change words. That's why also going back a little bit and, getting back, landed a little bit to the monstrous film. That's how we also, get to our point in the film too. How can we be free by ourselves? How can we show the world we don't need you? We don't need the UN. We don't need the United Nations. We don't need, the Global Bank. we can do it by ourselves. This is our body. We can do it by ourselves.
¡Au!
That was so powerful. Tremendo. Increíble.
Lanzó la brujería. Eso ha hecho el COVID para nosotros.
Yeah,
tener
before
más,
we-
más furia, tener más furia, más rabia.
yeah.
Está intensificando los poderes. Está
But you know,
buenísimo eso.
bringing it back to the films actually, like the strength of like both like the fiction film of Cesar, like, and your film, which is obviously not fiction. You're living
Es
it.
que no es
You know, you're living it. But you know that thing of the strength of the internal strength, right? The internal strength of you as performers and activists, and then the strength of the character in Reminiscence. You know, like that internal thing that we need to kind of move, like to be strong, like to be queer and trans, and like to just, but to have that internal strength and connection to each other. And anyway, I think that that's sort of a similar thing, a theme in both of your films. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. I agree.
Sí, sí, yo también totalmente de acuerdo. Creo que tal vez en el caso de la ficción a veces es difícil preguntarse cómo, o sea, yo me preguntaba cómo podemos relacionar la ficción con el documental, y en general creo que para hacer esta historia posible, lo primero el primer paso que alguien tiene que darse es de dónde sale la fuerza, ¿no? Esta fuerza creadora, ¿qué hace crear? No solo de la persona que crea la historia, sino del personaje que está dentro de la historia y hace algo, lucha por algo. Entonces, por ahí en algún lugar había leído, he escuchado en función de que hay un paso antes de la denuncia, ¿no? Y es cargarse de impotencia, ¿no? Nos cargamos de impotencia hasta un momento que ya no podemos callar y hay que hacer algo al respecto. Entonces, bueno, en el caso de Reminiscencia surge un poco de ahí, ¿no? Un poco también de estas múltiples formas de impotencia que vivimos y que nos cargan y que no podemos y no callar y que alguien en algún momento se atreve a no callar, tal vez por no sí misma, pero por alguien más, ¿no? A veces, y esa es justamente una pregunta, ¿no? Que me hago y hago también a todas y a todos, que tiene que ver un poco con eso, ¿no? De preguntarnos de dónde sale esta fuerza, ¿no? Esta fuerza para responder y denunciar.
I'm going to translate a little bit of that, but I think you're leading us to a really interesting point again, Cesar. Like, so Cesar was speaking about the creative energy, the creative drive, no, and where does it come from? Either if you're the screenwriter or the director or the artist, or where does the creative energy come in the character, in the potentiality of the character, and how it's kind of brought to life by the actors and the story and the direction and everything, no? So, and he was mentioning this, how before you denounce something, how before you speak up against something, there is a moment of crushing, kind of, I don't want to say demoralization, but it's like, it's a moment that you're kind of carrying the weight of this injustice, of this wrong, and how heavy it has to be before you decide to push back against it, no? Like how much can you actually take before you decide to speak up against that or act out against that? So that's something that he keeps questioning himself. So, and I wanted to mention also that maybe that we have seen a similar moment, no? Like last year in Chile, like with the rise of the metro tickets, and like there was this huge protest going on, no? And then suddenly it came to a halt when everyone was sent home due to COVID. No, and I think that there were many different protests around the world, and especially around Latin America, that were kind of shut. No, and that's also what Pachacuir was saying, that it was kind of drastically shut out of nowhere. No, just at a time where they were gaining momentum, just at a time where they had all of the eyes of the world on them and they were making progress. And I wonder also, like, when will that time come again in this new kind of period? No, because in the documentary Monstras, like, there seems to be such a moment when you mentioned what was done to Samuel Chambers, no? Yeah. And how it feels like that was a tipping point, ¿no? Un momento en que se derrama el agua, ¿no? Es una injusticia tan grande, tan violenta, tan escandalosa, de alguna forma, que obliga, que te saca de esa, que te obliga a decir, ya no puedo más, ¿no? Tengo que hablar, tengo que actuar. And I think that we have seen a little bit of that also in North America with Black Lives Matter, no? When George Floyd was murdered, like, that was a tipping point. Like, that's a moment where people cannot remain silent anymore. So I want to know from you, Pachacuir, por ti, Cesar, like, what do you see happening in Latin America, in Ecuador, in Brazil, in Peru, and if we're approaching such a tipping point, or do you think that we're approaching such a tipping point?
Es que ahora no podemos pensar en un futuro, siento, porque antes teníamos como quizás un piso, veíamos a dónde estábamos yendo con la revuelta social, con la colectividad, con el poder de nuestras voces, y de un momento a otro nos aniquilaron. Entonces, tú no puedes, o al menos yo no me pienso de aquí a noviembre, que al menos en Ecuador vamos a hacer la primera marcha transnacional y ya no vamos a seguir encerradas en la calle, vamos a salir porque estamos cansadas de esto.
So, Coco was saying that that right now she cannot see a future, no? Like, she cannot see I guess a light at the end of the tunnel, like a goal, no, for the actions. But and I'm sorry, I don't know if I got this right, but you will have the first trans march, or you're not sure if you will? You will.
Yeah. We will. Yeah, we will.
Yes.
We will.
Great.
Yeah.
We will.
Yeah, November, baby. In November, everyone, please join us. Wherever you are, we will speak up. We will try, to like get together again. Also, this is also another thing that has been very crucial for us, because our project itself is based on people reunited. Yeah. And now is like people, I mean, nobody can be kind of a certain distance away, or even here in Ecuador is even worse, because we have like certain schedule where you have to be on the streets now, even though that now we are 7 months, right, so far, and we're still having this, like, since 9 p.m. we cannot go to the streets, and also on the weekends there is no alcohol sales or anything like that. It's like I don't know how to, like,
ley seca.
Yeah, ley seca. I don't know if there is a
like the dry law.
But bueno, again, like at some point, it could be, like different points of view for these situations. But the main thing is that is control at the end of the tunnel. It's more control, right? Here in Latin America, what this situation of the pandemic has become is that is being un retroceso, right? A backlash, un retroceso de all the things that we have been going through, like, in terms of education, in terms of rights, in terms of a lot of things that even now, that like the politicals here in Ecuador are getting together. I mean, of course, virtual, or who knows, discussing about laws, and banning some laws and banning some things that we've been gaining in terms of history and time. And this means that the worst time of ever, you know. I think that this time now, we will never forget for the rest of the history of humanity, because this is the time where, you know, everyone has realized that the humankind doesn't want to share this world any longer the way it is.
Yes.
Uf, fuerte.
Well, this is, you know, the Pacha conversation.
Igual como podría ser un buen ejercicio ver cómo están los países más desarrollados, porque a la final es como una línea de tiempo. Es como allá están en el futuro y acá estamos como en el presente, y en otros países como Bolivia, Nicaragua, están como pasando lo que nosotras vivimos hace 3 meses y nosotras estamos viviendo lo que allá pasaron hace 3, 4 meses. Entonces, esa es como la posibilidad de futuro más cercano que tenemos, creo.
Yeah. Saludos.
Hola, Carmen. Hi, Carmen. That's Carmen. Carmen Rodriguez.
Well, you know, so just going back a little bit, so we don't lose this, because I think it's very interesting what Coca just said. That, you know, we have to think globally on the frame, on the timeline of this global crisis, right? So we just have to like look forward for news. Well, not news, certainly look forward for some friend that tells you the truth, because, you know, news here, at least here in Latin America, is not a good source of information.
Yeah.
But, you know, you can have the information some other ways now with this technology we have, and especially with the social network we still have, to know, you know, and to understand and to realize, more than that, that is the same laboratory everywhere. So, you know, the same thing that you've lived, I don't know, 2 months ago, we're living it now. The same thing that we're living now, Bolivia will live in the next 2 months, or any other, you know, like, of course, the hierarchy is going down on the terms of money and, you know, and richness of each country. So, you know, of course, el más empobrecido, right? What is the word for empobrecido, mi amor? So, you know, this is like the best translation ever. But, you know, we don't like to use the word impoverished country. We don't like to use the word poverty, because poverty relates that is kind of responsible of the people, and we like to use the word empobrecido, which is that the system itself make you you know, being in that situation. So again, so talking about that, and this is, you know, very interesting, and this is what actually, you know, somehow we need to find out the way to break up this big bubble that they have built for us, realizing that, you know, it's all kind of a you know, a very technical system. It's like the tech for a theater, the tech for, you know, some show. That the world has been rolling in the same with the same pattern for so many time, you know, and now they don't want to lose control. So I think that going back to what Coca says, that is why we don't have any future so far, any near future, because, you know, we're trapped in this, and the only one who can save is ourselves. The only one who has the key to escape from this is ourselves.
I love that. That is so true. That is so true. And I think that it's also what you were saying, lo que decía Coca, de mirar el futuro, de mirar los otros países, y como todos estamos como en líneas paralelas. Now we're like in parallel lines, but some of them...
A little ridiculous.
Y puede ser, y a veces es para mejor y a veces para peor, ¿no? Because if we look at the US right now, that's a very grim future that we could face ourselves in our countries, ¿no?
Yeah.
Sí. César, ¿algún comentario que quieras hacer al respecto? Yo creo que ya tenemos...
Yes, I think we have to close. It's also the same time we're closing Cinematheque. Además, es el mismo momento que estamos cerrando la sala. So we are both closing virtual VLAB.
Todas las salas se cierran.
Cristian, danos 5 minutos. ¿Nos puede dar 5 más?
Si quieres, tú puedes decir cuando termine, Maricesi.
Bueno, listo.
Tú dices y tú puedes despedir.
Ok, perfecto.
Sí,
César, por favor, sí,
para responder, me quedé pensando bastante en eso, ¿no? De lo que pasa 3 meses allá, pasa 3 meses aquí, de ahí 3 meses al otro lado. Y sí, la situación es de que si viene, tenemos que saber cómo adaptarnos porque parece que la historia está escrita, pero tenemos la posibilidad de saber lo que nos viene. Entonces, ¿qué hacemos ahora? ¿Cómo adaptamos? Entonces, es como las marchas que antes teníamos, pero no se podían hacer porque estaba prohibido. Entonces, con el tiempo fuimos entendiendo cómo adaptarnos y la historia nos fue dando ciertos permisos y, ok, no se puede así, pero se puede así. No se puede de tal manera, pero bueno, podremos de esta otra. Y si no se puede, no importa, igual vamos. Entonces, es como que la adaptación no solo viene del sistema, sino también de toda la comunidad, ¿no? En sí, de decir, ok, es otra marcha de la cual tenemos que volver a adaptarnos para poder salir a las calles, porque cada periodo de tiempo parece que es un nuevo reto, ¿no? Salir a las calles. En Perú, por lo menos, siguiendo la línea en los últimos 7 años, las marchas han ido aumentando, o sea, empezaron a hacer nada de personas en la calle para marchas anti-Keiko, marchas también de la comunidad. O sea, en general siento que ha ido creciendo. Entonces, si ahora se ha parado, no es motivo de decir, ok, volvamos a lo mismo, ¿no? Porque, claro, o sea, me parece cierto de que puede que Perú haya tenido el terrorismo durante mucho tiempo atrás y después de que haya acabado, muchas personas sintamos de que el miedo del terror, ¿no? Y que ese terror acaba siendo la criminalidad, que ese terror acaba siendo el abuso de la autoridad, que ese terror puede ser la violencia de género en sí. Y entonces puede haber muchas formas de terror que digamos, no voy a hacerlo. Y ahora el terror es un contagio del virus. Entonces empezamos a adaptarnos a cómo cuidarnos y eso es el reto, ¿no? De preguntarnos cómo nosotros frente a este contexto nos vamos a adaptar sabiendo lo que va a venir. Dentro de 3 meses va a venir esto. Dentro de 3 meses probablemente no podremos salir los domingos. Ok, marchemos el sábado, ¿no? Entonces, esas alternativas que nos quieren limitar y siempre buscar. Entonces, me parece súper valioso eso, ¿no? Porque tenemos el mapa en nuestras manos y la cosa es ahora cómo nosotros superar a este mismo juego que nos han puesto encima, porque nadie nos ha dicho que somos inferiores a nada. Entonces, o sea, nosotros sabemos que podemos ser mejores, ¿no? Y ante esto, entonces creo que por ahí va el hecho de saber, no ponernos en la disyuntiva. El problema siento que cae mucho en el que dice, ha cambiado el mundo y se le cae el techo a todas y a todos. Se cae el techo. Y a veces hay tantas personas que viven en una comunidad con desastres naturales y que llueve y se le cae su casa y la comunidad le ayuda, lo saca, lo reconstruye. A los 3 meses está reconstruida su casa de nuevo y recuperó un frigider porque alguien se lo ha prestado y la comunidad se nutre así, entre todos y todas ir ayudándose, ¿no? Independientemente del desastre que pueda suceder.
That's a really good point, Cesar. So he was talking about how if we can see ahead, then we can prepare, no? And it's important that we continue to adapt to the ever-changing circumstances, to the ever-changing threats or restrictions that might be imposed to us by the government, that might be imposed to us by the systems, not by the larger systems, and that we can, I guess, don't lose the focus, don't lose the eyes, and keep the eyes on the prize, and that prize is kind of this revolution that we're fighting for, no? Like this liberty, this equal right of being, finally, no? Like that's what's at stake. Just the right, the certainty that you can be who you are in peace and not have your life threatened, no? Just kind of keep going toward that goal and learn to organize toward it, no? And look for community and just keep adapting, no?
Yeah.
Sí, yo quiero como acotar una cosita de lo que decía César. Yo no sé si me adaptaría, porque creo que no, creo que soy una cuerpa que vivo que me deleito de la inconformidad y siento que el adaptarse a los modus vivendi de esta sociedad es naturalizar el fascismo que se está viviendo. Entonces, si es que bien es cierto, tenemos esta posibilidad de adelantarnos en pequeños espacios de tiempo con lo que sucede en otros países, quizás, no sé, como quizás no autoconvocarnos, organizarnos, juntarnos, conspirar, nos gusta mucho la palabra conspirar más que adaptarnos. Y yo era como, cuando dijiste adaptar, a mí se me vino a la cabeza como hackear, como que quizás tenemos la posibilidad de hackear, porque es lo que nosotras estamos haciendo ahora, es porque para nosotras es una situación totalmente de privilegio el poder estar sentadas frente a un computador conversando con ustedes en Vancouver, cuando muchas hermanas están sin tener que comer afuera o muchos niños tienen que endeudarse ahora para un computador para su teleclase en el nuevo año escolar. Entonces, pero esto vemos nosotras como una posibilidad de infectar, de hackear estos nuevos imaginarios comunicacionales que está teniendo la mundo y las sociedades.
Okay, so just back to the power of the word. You know,
I was just gonna say that. Sorry, I was just gonna say that I love how you use words and language.
Just you know, just do not adapt. We don't have to, you know, find a ways to adapt to any, you know, new rules or new way of society. Which we would like to change is to hacking, right? Do not adapt, hack it. And I think that will resume more of what Coca just said, and also that we being trans people, we being, you know, queer people, we being non or frightening against binary and heteronormative, we will never be able to adapt to anything, basically. So you know, that also maybe related to our politicals, you know, because our body is political. So maybe whatever happens in this body also reflects in our ways of, you know, being on society and get together with the collective and with other folks. And also I wanted to just, because I think we're just closing or kind of closing, and before I just, I had this idea of that we've been discussing lately of how we can, you know, based on the film, because also we're very happy that the film, of course, we just missed this part, but we're very happy that the film is being showed, you know, in the Bluff. And I think we're, you know, more than happy that the word is being spread, and, you know, that kind of the work and the collective and the power that many of our sisters are working with here in Latin America and in other places of the world is being shared. So thank you for that. And thank you for watching also, people who watch the film. Soon we will be releasing also freely on the internet, but soon, very soon, after, you know, going around the globe. No, just kidding. But hopefully, but, you know, soon it will be available for everyone online. And also I wanted to say, you know, that remaining on the film, that most of the power that we gain from that is that we do not have to forget you know, the memories are very important, and that's why we talk about witches, we talk about, you know, universe, we talk about changing topics, because I think we need to reinforce this thing of not forgetting things, of, you know, because someone, some people says that someone or something dies when you forget it, and we think that that's why we have to keep it in mind and to transfer it to the young people. You know, telling them, you know what, this democracy did that, this president did that, this family did that, you know, this crew of people, this store where you are buying and this game that you are so happy to play with killed my sisters, or killed this country, or, you know, or devastated the Amazon, whatever it is. But we do not have to, we cannot forget our memories. And that's why we gain force from our sister Samuel, who was brutally murdered, but not just because of the way that, you know, they were murdered, but because she was very close to us, because she was the closest being from us. And that's why it was so important for us to break up the silence and to speak up. And also after so many years of work, because this film is also has brought to life after 5 years working.
El trabajo del
Yeah.
documental tomó
That-
4 años.
yeah,
Pero
4
7 años, 8 años.
Yeah, 4 years of working just on the making of the film. Also, along with our friend Melida Coelho, who was also very, very big participant at the beginning of this film. And then more than 8 years of work, showing the collective steps. And also, how we can find a way to, because this can sound very, very novel, right? I mean, whatever we speak is like for people who maybe, are not very familiar with being monster or monstra or being, trans or being lesbian, or sometimes people are not even related to wear short pants. So I think, that for us is to let people know that you have the power to break it, and that we have to change our minds in the meaning of the states has taken away the sovereignty from ourselves, because the sovereignty is a very important word that the countries has taken for the flag and for whoever is seated on a chair giving orders. But for us, the sovereignty is the power that every one of us have to do with our lives, with ourselves, what we want and what we can. So that's why, the other day, a lady on the store asked us, why do you paint your nails? And we said, because this is our hands, and this is the way that we find to break out this, to land all these ideas, to make it real. Not just, because, they are trans people, because they are, so outgoing, they are just monsters and they don't care, that's why they can do that. No, every one of us can do that, but recognizing that this is our territory and this is our power and this is our fire. No. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
That's amazing. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Mota.
very
Like,
much.
I don't know what I could say that could go after that.
I think it's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you very
babies.
much. And thank you to Gerald Herman. Hope you're watching, mi amor. Thank you very much to Gerald Herman. This was a very kind spirit with us that actually, reinforces us, that pushes us to, subtitle the film, to make it in English, subtitles, because he thought it was very important to make it,
Christine.
to put it forward, outgoing to people who don't speak just only Spanish. So thank you very much to Gerald.
We played it in Translations in Seattle. In Translations is the other festival I work at, and it was really like people like, it was in an art and activism program, and it's really,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Muchísimas
Sí.
gracias perdón, disculpa, César.
No, que va. Gracias a las directoras por su película. Felicitaciones. A seguir batallando, que ahí vamos con todo. Y gracias, María Cecilia y Kathleen por organizar esto. Es una ventana y necesitamos siempre ventanas. Entonces, gracias por eso.
No, más bien gracias a ti, César. Muchísimas gracias, Mota, Coca. Ha sido un gustazo enorme poder conversar con ustedes. Quedo muy atenta, muy a la espera de más noticias de ustedes, de en qué andan, en qué están, cómo vamos a ir,
Conspirando.
Conspirando. Sí.
Baby, conspirando.
Sí, conspirando.
Bueno, igual nosotros estamos como Pachaqueer en cualquiera de las plataformas cibernéticas, Pachaqueer, así como estamos ahí, como está aquí nuestro nombre.
Cosa nos pueden buscar ahí.
Sí, y estamos siempre...
Y aquí en Quito y en Ecuador, obviamente, su guarida, su trinchera, cuando quieran escapar, babies, de donde sea que estén escapando, aquí tienen a estas perras vagabundas, hermanas sudacas, listas para abrir la cula y recibirles.
Muchísimas gracias.
Chao.
Muchísimas gracias, hermosas.
Ciao. Bye.
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 Bye.